This was the first spawn that in my opinion broke Tibia, the fire section of Secret Library. The Creatures of Library had gone through multiple changes and its current version is not appealing enough, so most people only hunt in the ice section because it's the easiest to do. But fire section, despite being harder, is not that far off from ice, and if you are looking to try it out, this video will break down how to hunt there. But first I want to give a disclaimer. Back in the days when this spawn was at its best, the way to hunt it was mostly with the use of 3 walls, but I don't recommend to do that anymore. With my more recent hunts, I do believe it's better and more efficient to do some pulls without them. It might feel harder for some, but I highly encourage you to try that out. So if you wish to hunt here, start by building defensively on fire protection, as much as you can stack for every location, since it is the main source of damage, with heavy physical on the EK as well, and although the Guardians of Tales have a death attack, is marginal in comparison, and most of the times people hunt without them, so stick to physical and fire. Offensively, the way to go is with ice damage. In terms of charms, it's also very helpful to have freeze, and I will recommend to split up the charm with 2 people having it on books and the other 2 on squids, to balance the pulls a little bit, but it is slightly more impactful on books and the other creatures are neutral to pretty much everything, so use whatever you got available. As for how long it will take to unlock these creatures, you are looking at around 6 to 7 hours to unlock squids and books. Guardians depends if you decide to lead them out, because most of the time it's better to hunt without them, and this is how you trap them. The first one is by the crossroads south from the middle lobby. In this room there will be 2 Guardians of Tale and 2 Blobs. Start by clearing the crossroads and placing energy bombs on the hall and then run past them to the right, to then clear creatures on this run as well. Once you're done, the mages can stay to the north on an energy bomb and then bring the Blobs and Guardians. Blocks in particular, I will always advise to trap them, but once you get more levels, you can decide to lead the Guardians in and just trap the Blobs. But at the lower levels and starting off in Fire Library, I will trap the 4 creatures, by luring them into either of these rooms and blocking the entrance with an energy bomb. Then once you are off screen, they will try to go back but get stuck in the wall and won't move until lured out. Others will trap them in the room to the north and close the door, but this decreases your experience as there is creatures that come from that room and are part of the pool. The other trap is for the previous pool downstairs of the lobby. Here you should do the lap clockwise normally, and once you reach the hall, start using energy to keep the guardians out, and then clear the lobby by luring the other creatures. After that, block the hall with walls or an E-bomb and go south to clear that room as well. Once it's done, shooters can stay in a corner with an energy bomb or go upstairs. Meanwhile, EK by himself or with the help of the druid lure the guardians south and then into this room. And once they are in the room, block the exit with an energy wall and lead them there. Besides these 2 traps, you also should trap the creatures from the lobby. What we will do is clear the room to the north and I will stay there with the druid. Then the RP and MS will start luring creatures from the lobby, and I will keep them on me for eventually run out and close the door. You can also trap some creatures on the right side, which is recommended if you plan on running out after the hunt, but I highly recommend to have a queue to get out, and to either drag your supplies in on a backpack or have the EK run in first to drop supplies and then come again with the rest of the team. Unfortunately, this is a must do for 2-hour hunts in library, so with that out of the way, you can start the hunt. The lap I recommend is to go clockwise. The only benefits I have seen from doing counterclockwise is when you're able to pull more creatures and do bigger lures, as the timing it takes to set the pulls is slightly faster, for example on this intersection, which is the first pull. For this you will be coming from the north and the EK can stay in the middle and hold 3 creatures, while the other 3 players split up to lure from each side. In our case, our druid wasn't able to lure, so I was doing that instead, by peeking into the hole and then holding the creatures until the MS made it back, who was luring from the south and then the RP doing the east. It's important that at least one person waits for the sorcerer or the one luring from the south to get behind the walls before moving in, because otherwise he can get retargeted by creatures and trapped. The RP is usually doing this since the lure from the right takes a bit longer to do. And although I did say I wouldn't be using this hunt style with 3 walls, for this pool is very much necessary, since it is one where you lure a lot of creatures. And because of the amount of creatures that will be targeting the EK, I highly recommend the use of a shield with fire protection for this pool, even if you have a 200 soul weapon. Personally, I will use the shield and Cobra Axe for this and then the Soul Eater for the other pools. Next up, go south and down the stairs. This one is the most dangerous for lower levels, because it has 2 blocks on it. EK needs to grab the aggro from the other 4 creatures and then get into his spot. These are slightly more important to grab as the Blobs can be avoided with energy bombs on the mages. There is extra creatures on the hall to the left that could be lured by the RP, but I recommend against that, especially on lower levels. And if possible, as the EK, you might want to use a guild necklace for this one pull, since the main damage from the Blobs is earth. Moving on, follow the path, and as the EK, make sure to rest the creatures out of the hall. Do a small lap around the room, and then do the pull here. Meanwhile, the RP grabs 1 to 2 creatures from the hall nearby, and then semi-kite them around the EK for more damage on them. This pull has some variations. For one, if you wish to do it with walls, it can be done. EK still does the lap around to give time for the druid to set the walls, but more importantly, when the paladin is comfortable with the damage, he is able to lure the creatures from the next pull into this one and combine them together. This is more efficient as the next pull is subpar. If you don't do that, then the EK must go first into the room to rest the 5 creatures on it. Meanwhile, RP rushes ahead to lure 3 to 4 from the north, and then stand by the entrance to the room, leaving the corners to be blocked with walls if needed, although leaving at least one gives room to creatures to go on the EK. After this pull, keep going north. However, there is a pull that is upstairs, but that should only be done once overkilling starts to happen, so I will leave that for last. For this next pull is simply going into the room and standing here, so the mages can wait for 3 directions and run around if needed. Then moving forward to the right takes you to the lobby, where you should have trapped the guardians already, so stay around this area with Paladin making sure to bring the creatures on the way. And there is plenty of room to move around the EK when needed. But additionally, when you start leaving the guardians on trap, then EK slowly walks in, keeping the aggro from the tree from the hall, and then stand near the entrance to the lobby. Enough creatures for the pull will come on their own, and a wall can be placed to the south to block extras from going to the mages. And then after that pull, go to the right and stand in the entrance to this hall, making sure to bring out the burning brook from it. That will leave a safe spot for mages to go if needed and 3 wall, or just move around the EK like normal. Meanwhile, the RP lures creatures from the south hall into this pool, and with that, the lab will be completed. Hunting like this on a team of average level 600s, the experience will be between the 6.5 to 7kk raw. Then once you start feeling the overkill, the only addition is the pull upstairs, which sucks, not gonna lie about that, but it's necessary to deal with the pacing. So go upstairs and EK go into the hall to the left and make sure to bring out the 3 creatures. Meanwhile, ED needs to wait for the creatures to come out of the hall and then go in. During that, RP and MS will be luring from the south and northeast. The RP ends up side tanking 1 to 3 creatures until there is room to move in and drop some on the EK. And DMS normally is able to go to the safe spot behind the walls, but also things can go wrong and creatures retarget or the trap is not made by the time he's back, and that forces situations to go out of control. With that pull, it should be enough for things up to 800 or even 900. At that point, the lap doesn't change much, instead it's the speed on which you kill the pulls that balances the overkilling, and start doing more side boxing on the RP for more damage. For the first pull, you have 3 players lure, this time with the druid luring from the south and the others luring from the sides, and RP tanking near the EK. The second pull is left the same way. Luring into the next one will end up much harder and for possibly no rewards, as overkilling is still a problem on this spawn. Then for the third pull, RP lures everything from the room northwest, and MS lures from the north, sometimes including the Blobs from there. The upstairs pull remains the same. Then next up, EK stays closer and draws an M wall for the druid, which then he makes a trap for himself with a 3 wall. RP slowly lures whatever was left behind on the hall. Then for the next one in the lobby, we will stack near the wall and do a similar pull, with RP luring from the east and MS grabbing some from the south, or you could do it with setting walls on the entrance and lure everything you can and drop it on the EK. Either way, from personal experience, that's all that is needed for Fire Library, but I know of backup pulls to the south of the lobby and to the right side of the intersection. I've seen those being added, although I personally never did them myself. Lastly, I highly recommend to do one or both of the bosses in Fire Library, as they are a good source of profit and they are pretty easy to do. I have guides for both of these, so check them out if you are interested, and consider subscribing if you like the content. Thank you for watching, and a special thanks to the Guild Causality, Nightstar and Tuna Hero for supporting the channel.